Let's talk about new strategies that we're seeing for buying multifamily property. Not many people are talking about it, and not many investors are actually doing it. It's not a new concept to the larger investors, though. Many of the institutional investors do this process every single day. And there's absolutely no reason why new and smaller multifamily investors can't get into on the same act. And so, here's what we've put together for you. Let me give you a little bit of background first. If you're an investor in multifamily property and you've been looking for opportunities, there are really only 4 places that people can look for deals. The first one is what we call retail sources. Those are the types of places you find on the internet. You know, things like LoopNet and CIMLS.com or CoStar, and now LoopNet and CoStar are one and the same. You got Cushman and Wakefield, Marcus and Millichap. If you go there and you find a deal, bravo to you, but you're going to be paying top dollar for that opportunity. Those are the retail deals. We hear from our clients and from other investors that they can't find deals in the marketplace. And then when we ask them, where are you looking? Their answer is always the same, LoopNet. And of course, those are probably the hardest places to find the deals. The next source for finding deals are off-market listings. These are places where there's no brokers involved. It's done primarily through word of mouth among owners. You have to know where to go to find these types of opportunities. These places are out there. I use them all the time to find deals for my clients. And there are a lot of places on the internet that offer these particular types of opportunities. You just have to know where to look. The next level down below the retail and the off-market are what we call REO, or bank-owned properties. We are seeing more and more of these out there because of what's going on in the economy. Right now, there are about $60 billion, B with a billion, in commercial mortgage-backed security loans that are now delinquent. And a lot of those properties are going to be going back to the banks. And the banks are going to have to do something with it. And a lot of investors are looking at those properties as the newest opportunities out there. Finally, there are non-performing notes. These are the notes where the bank wants to get that debt off their books. The person is behind on their mortgage. They haven't, the property is upside. And so what the bank does is they sell that note to an investor. Now, each one of these types of sources comes with its own set of problems. Let's look at the retail and off-market sources first. If you just got out of some guru's boot camp or just finished a home study course and you're thinking that you're going to take the multifamily world by storm, so you jump right on those internet sites like the LoopNets and the CIMLS and the CoStars, understand one thing, and that is that LoopNet states that they've got over 4 million subscribers that access their services. Now just think about that for a second. If you're looking for a deal, you're competing against 4 million other investors. That's a tough row to hoe. If you end up finding the right deal, it's almost like you've just won the lottery. This is not where the professionals in the multifamily business hang out. If this is going to be your profession, if you're going to build a multifamily business and make this your own, the retail level is not where you need to be. You've got to go in a different direction. If you're serious about being successful at this business, you've got to raise your game. You've got to get into those places where the pros go. And as far as the REO opportunities, I'm sure you've heard this before. It's not what you know in this business. It's who you know. This is strictly a relationship business. When a bank takes a property back, their best multifamily borrowers are going to get the first look at that property. If you don't have the right relationship with the bank, you're not going to get considered to be one of their top customers. You're never going to see those sweetheart deals. Banks are like anyone else. They do business with their friends. So when you get yourself on a list of foreclosed properties, and I can speak personally here, I'm on several different lists, what you end up looking at on those lists are properties that 10,000 other sets of eyeballs have already looked at and passed on. It's probably not a good property. It's the property that the banks couldn't unload on their friends, so they threw it on a list and pleaded with the list owner, please get this thing off our books. Yeah, you might be able to go in there and steal it, but is it really the type of property that you want to own? And that's one of the problems with REOs. The other problem is if you're going to make an offer, you've got to show the bank that you've got the cash and you can close very quickly, because they're not going to give you a long due diligence period. They're not going to give you a financing contingency provision in your purchase and sale contract. Hey, if they could finance the deal themselves, they'd do it. But they know this property can't be financed, and they want your cash. So don't expect them to allow a financing contingency that will enable you to get your earnest money back, because they'll tell you, hey, if we can't finance this deal, no other reputable lender is going to do it either. So don't slow down our desire to get rid of that property by putting that type of contingency in your offer. That's a tough way for a new investor to do business. Now, the last source of deals, as I mentioned before, are non-performing notes. You've got to understand that if you're buying a non-performing note, you're not buying real estate. You're buying a security. It's a negotiable instrument that comes collateralized by real estate through a security document called either a deed of trust or a mortgage. But it is a security. You may never get your hands on that real estate. You run that risk when you're buying a non-performing note. And if you're buying the note, because of the fact that it's a security, you got to pay all cash. You're not going to be able to get a mortgage on a non-performing note. You're not going to be able to find a hard money lender who's going to give you 65% loan to value mortgage on a non-performing note. You've got to come up with all cash. And as far as the due diligence period, forget about it. That owner may not even consider himself a seller. The owner may never allow you on his property to go through every single unit to determine if it's a good value or not. He doesn't have to. You're not the bank. You're not the potential owner. You don't have a purchase and sale contract with this guy. So it's a totally different scenario. Finally, when you buy a non-performing note and you go to foreclose on that note because the owner has defaulted on the terms, you're going to need to hire an attorney in that jurisdiction who specializes in foreclosure of commercial property. It's different than single family. And then if the owner wants to play hardball, he could throw his asset into bankruptcy, and then you have to go to a bankruptcy attorney who will have to represent you through that entire process. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of risks when you buy non-performing notes. That's why you can pick them up for 50 cents on the dollar. There could be potentially a lot of expenses involved in ultimately owning that property. So, if these methods constantly come up short, what does an investor do? Well, if you're like many, you've been looking for months, maybe years, and you've never been able to find a deal. Think about it, folks. If instead of using the same methods that everyone else has been using and getting the exact same results, which in many cases for some of you may be absolutely nothing, you've got to try something new. Right now, there's about $95 billion in multifamily debt that's going to be maturing over the next 3 years. And the problem is that a lot of that debt was purchased back in 2005 to 2007, at the height of the last seller's market in multifamily investing. What's happening now is the notes are coming due, and these owners need to refinance their debt. But since they bought the property two things have happened. First, the property's value has dropped so much that they now have to come up with a lot of cash to refinance. And second, the banks have changed their underwriting guidelines and made it harder to finance many of these properties. So about 40% of that debt is going to need to be restructured in one way or another. It could be a short sale, it could be a rewriting of the terms of the note or note modification, or it could be a recapitalization of that particular entity. You put more money into the project. How do you find these properties? How do you put yourself in a position to get your hands on those properties before anybody else even sees them? It's very simple. You got to go to the source. And the source is the owners. Don't work through a broker. Don't look at the retail sources. Don't go to the banks. Go to the source before the problem becomes public and the entire world now knows about it. So just like you're doing right now and probably have been doing for the last several months or years, you've got a specific type of property in mind that you want to own. You use that same criteria when you go out and find these owners. You need access to market research tools. We're going to show you where these tools are, and we're going to show you how to get access to them. We will help you with those online subscription services in finding the right properties that work for you. These services will provide you with all the information you need to determine if you should pick up the phone and call the owner and start working with the owner towards figuring out a solution to what's going to be his problem. The best thing about this strategy is you deal directly with the owners. You don't go through a broker. Remember, when a broker puts a property on the market, he shows it to 4 million people. With this approach, you deal directly with the owner and only those owners that you know are going to have a problem. And the nice thing about that is you build a rapport with the owner. And then the owner takes you to his other properties. So instead of dealing with one broker on one property that 4 million people look at, you deal with one owner that you know has a problem and maybe become his go-to person to buy his other properties. And this is where it really gets good for the new investor. You can structure the deal where you buy the property outright from the owner, or you can work with the lender to see if you can restructure the note, or another solution is you can buy into the owner's company to help recapitalize the company and get a controlling interest of the property. If you're a new investor, this is key because that solves the sponsorship problem. If you're a new investor and you haven't seen this problem creep up yet, it's because you haven't gone down far enough down the path of buying a property. What do you need to get started? You need access to this information. You need experience, or in the alternative, you need the education to know how to approach these owners and know what to say. That's the key. The white paper will show you how to do that. Anyone can do this, folks. If you're listening to this video and feel intimidated by working with owners, let me tell you something about multifamily property owners. Owners are pussycats. I'm an owner myself. When somebody calls me to talk to me about my property, it's like old home day. I can't shut up. We just sit there on the phone and hash it out, especially if he's another apartment owner. If I know that if I have to return a phone call to another apartment owner, I clear my docket for the day because I know we're just going to sit there and gab about the business, and it's a lot of fun. Owners are a lot easier to talk to than the brokers. The brokers have to vet you. They have to justify their existence to the owners. They have to determine whether you can get to see the man behind the curtain. In this particular case, dealing with the owners is actually going to be easier than it is dealing with the brokers. So, to get more information about this and find out how you can get started using this strategy, read more about it below, then click on the Download Now button. The white paper will give you more information about how you can take advantage of this opportunity. It's a great report. It's typically $49. You put your email address in today and hit download now. You'll get it for free. If you have any questions about it, just send us an email at info@multifamilyinvestingacademy.com. So that's it. Time to get work on finding that next deal.